Growing up, I always knew that I was part German and part Cherokee Indian. I never knew how much of each I was or if there were any other heritage that I didn't know about. I know that my great-grandparents on my mother's side came to America from Germany, and my great-great-grandmother on my father's side is a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Unfortunately, I never grew up with any kind of stories of how my great-great-grandmother or her kids practiced traditions or beliefs within the Cherokee Indian community. So I decided to do this week's informative speech on my Cherokee heritage because I find that to be much more peaceful and serene in comparison to my German heritage. First, let's get some technicalities and a brief history out of the way. My great-great-grandmother was part of the Trail of Tears, and I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with it, but it's basically an Indian removal process where they forced all of the Cherokee Indians that were east of the Mississippi to the west of the Mississippi River. So they did like a 1,200-mile trek across the United States, and several thousand Cherokees died along the way due to disease, whooping cough was a big epidemic, and starvation. Fortunately, though, my great-great-grandmother survived, and she was forcefully relocated to Oklahoma. And she later moved to Arkansas, where my great-grandma and grandma are originally from. Many of us often associate Native Americans, regardless of what tribe they're from, with fire stomp dancing, with the chanting, and the large feather headdresses, and all of those kinds of things, but those are vastly over dramatized in our current media. In fact, the Cherokee Indians, they never had the large headdress with the feathers. They had a headband, and it only had a single feather in it. I remember for my first grade Halloween event at school, I wanted to pay homage to my Native American history, so I wanted to dress like a Native American. And my grandmother insisted that she make the costume for me so I wouldn't look ridiculous in this giant feather headdress that no one ever wore. And I actually have a picture of it. Let me see if you can see it. So I am right here, and you can't see the feather very well, but it's got the single headband and some beadwork. She took a really long time to make it, but it turned out really good and might not be completely accurate, but it is more accurate than the costumes they sell at Party City. Another thing that is often associated with Native American dress are moccasins, and Cherokee Indians were avid moccasin users, and in fact my family is as well. Every year we go camping, we go up north, and there's this little Indian shop along the way, and we stop there and we usually pick up a pair of moccasins every year because we wear them so much that they get worn out. And they're a bit pricey, but they're well worth it because they're handmade by the shop owner, and they're made from, you can get suede ones, you can get leather ones, they have a bunch of different kinds, they have fur lining in some of them. So that's part of the traditional dress that we still practice, although I'm sure the style of it has changed throughout the years. generally speaking, as far as Cherokee Indian beliefs and traditional practices, I don't really practice any of them, although I'm sure a lot of us actually would agree with their kind of big belief that good is rewarded and evil is punished, which is the common thing among most people. Another thing that I don't necessarily practice, but I believe, is that animals are just as important as man and that they should be treated with the same respect. The area where I differ is I don't really believe that any animal is specifically sacred. I know the Cherokees believe that cougars and owls are sacred animals because they're nocturnal. So they stayed awake during the 7 days of creation, which makes them sacred animals. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe that animals are just as important as humans and should be treated as such. After researching the Cherokee lifestyle and traditional beliefs, I'm pretty disappointed that Mike really kept up with these traditions and never practiced them. But after the British invaded and the Americans came over and colonized them, they started adapting, the lifestyle of the British or the Americans, and their lifestyle just slowly disappeared as they assimilated into American or British culture. Rather than interjecting my source throughout my speech, I decided to save it for the end because I use the same source for all of the beliefs and traditions I discussed earlier. And if you want to find out any more information on the Cherokee lifestyle, you can head over to www.cherokee.org. They have a lot more information on things that I didn't discuss, like traditional cuisine and, medicine men and women. So if you're interested, you can head on over there and learn some more.